And here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Stocks at the Numbers. And this one storming back from the bottoms here, going from about 30 cents, as you see, up to $1.22 today on the close, up almost half a point, 57 and a third percent, storming back above that $1 mark that obviously they need to hold to maintain compliance with the New York Stock Exchange. I believe they need 10 consecutive trading days of the stock closing above $1. And we can see that today the stock ran up here from the 70s up to above $1 and closed above that $1 mark. So now we have to wait and see if we can hold this organically for roughly, the next 2 weeks and keep the company, maintaining that compliance with the New York Stock Exchange so that they don't have to enact that reverse stock split. We don't really have any news on STEM, but if we back it up here and I adjust my trend lines, you can see this was one mark I was looking for, and I was expecting a rally back to, I believe, about 91 cents and change, and obviously you can see that we went up to that mark and then completely catapulted above that. So technically now, we could see a run back here, I want to say. I want to say maybe about 2 1/3, maybe to like 2.5, 260 even. Very, very possible. Because again, even though the company has been kind of lackluster in the earnings, as we see the last couple of quarters, we're missing on the EPS side, posting wider than expected losses. We're bringing in like half the revenue that we were expecting. But again, they still have that massive backlog that we were talking about of around $2 billion. So even though the numbers technically got readjusted to the downside, in my opinion, we still could have a pretty decent 2025, believe it or not. But of course, it's out of my control. We don't have the control over this. So it's really all up to the company now. But if they can actually start generating revenue off of said backlog, I think it's going to put them in a good position here. And if we look quarter over quarter, I mean, cash, of course, is down. We're operating at a loss. The debt dropped down a couple of mil, but it's still sitting at about 600 million. The free cash flow doubled to the downside, went from -4 million to about -9.5 million as of last quarter. But again, we just brought in some new management, so that's why we're saying potentially this quarter coming up, looking like end of February, and potentially the next quarter going out to May. In my eyes, it's either going to be this quarter or this quarter, where I feel that STEM is probably going to beat expectations, and then it's going to start getting on the up and up. But again, it's out of our control, but in my opinion, that's what I see happening. So, of course, we just have to wait and see. If we switch over to FinViz, we can see short float sitting at about 23%. But I'm sure a lot of that was covered just over the last couple of days. Again, stock went from lows of 30 cents up to over $1.20 here today. So I'm sure a bunch of shorts covered their positions to close out the week and probably took a loss on that one, depending on where they got in on the short. But in my opinion, I do think we potentially actually come back down and retest this sub $1 level, but then you might have that bounce, and you might have that organic slow step up going into these February earnings, where you're going to see potentially higher highs and higher lows, and we're just going to have that step up. And we could see a run up on anticipation going into these earnings throughout the month of February as well. Remember, the volume could start coming in a week or two before these earnings on anticipation of a nice earnings beat. Surprise. But then, of course, if they miss, they'll trickle it back down, and then you may have to wait for the next quarter. That's why I'm saying right now it's really up to the company. It's out of our control. But if we switch over here to stock charts real quick, I'll let you go. You can see the RSI up here now topped out at 82. Last time we spiked up to 80 plus, we had the big drop down the next day. So I'm curious to see if this is going to continue on Monday, or if we're going to have the retest. You can see, look, the 200-day moving average at 93 cents. Top Bollinger Band at 90 cents, and what was that level we were looking for? About 91 cents, right? So you have a lot of action right there between about 90 and 93 cents. So you could see a slight pullback there, and then it might try to bounce back up to above that $1 psychological level. MACD flying straight up. Switching over to the weekly, though, you can see we still have a little bit more room to go. And look, the stock stopped right at the 50-day moving average of 122. That's exactly where the stock closed. So it's not necessarily a rejection, but also at the same time, it didn't close above the moving average, indicating continued bullish momentum, which is why I'm saying you might have a slight pullback and then it could bounce, right? Because on the daily, it could be viewed as a little overextended. On the weekly, though, we still have more room to run. That's why I'm saying slight pullback potentially, and then we might actually run to above 122 and run to the mid or even high ones throughout the month of January. And I know a couple of people mentioned that they were watching it, they saw it completely get smacked down to like 30, 40 cents, they grabbed some shares, and now boom, all of a sudden the stock's running. So a lot of people who, happen to time this correctly are up well over 100%, in some cases 200+%. So, it's a rough situation, and if you want to lock in profits, that's kind of understandable, because again, it's going to be determined based on the earnings that we see in February and around May. And those are the quarters where the company really needs to turn it around, because I said even back here, like mid-24, that if they don't turn it around, they're going to drop to sub $1, and then you might get the reverse stock split. So that's kind of what began to happen, and now we forced it back up above $1. So I'm very curious to see how this one plays out, but again, rallying back to 2 really shouldn't be an issue. And hypothetically, let's just say they come kind of close, right? Let's say we get them up to like 130, 140 going into earnings. And let's say they kind of come close and we just kind of drop back down to where we are now, like 110, 120. And then if we go into next quarter's earnings, though, in May, if they beat, in my opinion, that'll shoot the stock up well over $2. So that's why, again, looking at these previous lows back here, back here, right? We're looking at, again, like 2 1/3, potentially to like 260, somewhere in that range. So over the next 1 to 2 quarters, if they are actually able to show us that they're on track, they're able to generate revenue, and they're able to fill the orders on that growing backlog that they kept speaking about, then I think that you could potentially see like a nice clean 100% move even from this level, which would bring us to about 245, which would be right in that range of 230 to 260. And of course, if we literally went through the worst of the worst and the storm has passed supposedly, and now we're going to be on the up and up throughout the next 3, 4, 5 quarters, then yeah, in my opinion, this can probably get back up to 3 and change, potentially this 3.5 level, kind of where it started, where it was hanging out and bouncing off of before it really started to tank down. So this one technically is still alive, and I know that percentage-wise, a lot of shareholders got beat up, but again, technically, the stock getting back above $1 is actually a very, very good sign. So if they can regain compliance and just push away that big potential looming negative of a reverse stock split incoming, then I think we may be on the up and up from here. Almost similar to what we saw with Origin. Remember Origin Materials? Same situation, right? They weren't really delivering. Their timeline got pushed back. The stock went down to what, like 40 cents or something like that. Then all of a sudden it started storming back up to like $1 and change organically. They strung together a couple of decent earnings quarters, right? And then the stock kind of got some life back into it. So that's why we could see a similar situation here with STEM. But here we're looking at the daily pivot points. We can see top level resistance 117. We're technically above that and where we closed. So that's why we can keep bullish momentum. But the RSI is a little overextended, so we could have a red day, especially after running not only 100% in the week, but of course 57% today alone. And these pivot points here on the weekly, we can see we were down here, we forced the bottoms at around 30 cents and then had the big jump up and stopped right at the moving average. On the weekly, the next pivot point is 586, right? So that might be a little extreme, but if we go back and we look at previous pivot points throughout the years of 2021 and 2023, let me get, there we go. So if we, what is this level? This level's about it's about $2 even. And then this previous point here is about 322, it looks like on my screen. So that's why even a run up to 2, believe it or not, is very possible this month, or potentially going into middle end of February, going into those earnings. So we could keep breaking up and see that $2 level. And if they do happen to surprise, we could see this level of about 3.25 as well. However, again, I personally think it might be the following quarter. But again, that's just me. That's just me. But, you know, again, I laid out, we have some potential to run back up to 2+, maybe 2.5. And then, of course, we have this next resistance level at about 3 and change, 322. So a couple of levels for you guys to watch. And of course, if news comes out, we'll do an update. And if nothing happens, then we may update when earnings come out. But again, that's roughly 7 weeks from today. So hopefully we get some news and we get some positive catalysts to come out and continue this rebound back up. Because I know some people got in even back at $3, $4 a share. So if this thing could really storm back and make this recovery now over the next, 2 to 5 months, I know a lot of you will be very, very happy with that. So I'm pulling for all of you. I wish you the best of luck, and let's hope the company delivers for us. But that's pretty much it, and I'll end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel, and of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, and they are very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend.